Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar this afternoon. This is Getting Ready for Year-End Planning in Sage Intacct. This is our agenda for the Sage Intacct Year-End Planning webinar. We'll do some introductions. We'll do an overview of the Sage Intacct year-end process. We'll discuss roles and permissions, reporting periods, and budgets. We will discuss the year-end closeout, the 1099 process, and the tax bandits. And then we will finish with reporting, and we'll have some time for questions and answers. Let's do some quick introductions. This is your Quisitive ERP team. Our presenter today is Lynn Jones, Sage Intacct Practice Director for Quisitive. Lynn Jones has over 15 years experience in ERP solutions, and he is a certified Sage Intacct consultant. He has extensive industry implementation knowledge in nonprofits, construction, healthcare franchises, SaaS, and financial institutions. He has implemented hundreds of clients in Sage Intacct and has end user experience with it as well. On the call today, we also have Jeff Vonasek, Principal Solutions Architect here at Quisitive. My name is Michelle Chesser, and I am a Customer Account Manager, along with Marian Hartka and Angela Gillis. One housekeeping item, during the presentation, you will be in listen-only mode, but you can ask questions or ask for assistance in the question or chat box in the GoToWebinar menu. Please feel free to enter your questions in the question box throughout the presentation, and then at the end, we will have time for some Q&A. We will also be recording this webinar today, and we will send you the link to it along with a copy of the presentation after the webinar. And now, without further ado, I will turn this over to you, Lynn. Lynn, you can take it away.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lynn Jones. I am the ERP Practice Director for Sage Intacct at Quisitive. I would be showing my horrid face, but I decided not to torment y'all today, so especially since my computer decided it wasn't going to let me torment you. So you lucked out today. On this webinar, we're going to review the year-end process. You'll find that in Intacct, the process compared to other systems is fairly easy. We'll go over user access and permissions, reporting periods, budgets, year-end closeout, quote, end quote, year-end closeout. 1999 preps, we'll talk about tax bandits, which is Sage Intacct's option for e-filing 1099s, and briefly touch on what you need to look at on financial reports for the year-end process. First up will be roles and permissions, reporting periods, and budgets. In Intacct, at year-end, what you want to do is kind of do an audit of your users. You're going to want to verify the number of users, so you make sure that you're not over your license number as far as business users and employee users. You want to verify that the user types are still correct. So say someone used to be an employee user, but now they need to be a business user, or a business user needs to be an admin, or an admin needs to be changed to a business user. You're going to want to change that at this point. You're also going to want to verify what entities and departments they have access to, which restricts them, and inactivate any users that are no longer being used. That's a lot right there, so let me show you this. Can you see my screen, Michelle? I'm going to
Yes,
take down.
Yes, we can.
All right, so everything I just said, it all applies to the company module, admin, users in your company. You'll have your users here, your user type, and if they're admins or not, you want to verify that the users and their business and their user types are still correct. The admin privileges are correct. You'll also want to edit each one and see if they have any entity restrictions and or department restrictions. Normally, it'll be department restrictions. Some people may no longer oversee a department, or they may be working in a new department. They need to be able to see that data. Logically, you would probably have done that when it happened, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see anything. Also, if you're over your user count as far as licenses, you want to come in here and inactivate a user so that you can free up your license if you need it. Additionally, you're going to want to review their roles. You're going to want to review the current roles and permissions are going to company roles, and you'll want to review those roles. Admin, you want to make sure that the subscriptions are still correct. What you need to understand is because Intacct updates every quarter, sometimes features are added that do not have the checkbox automatically. So you want to look through here and make sure that they have all the checkboxes that they require. This admin user does have it because I came in ahead of time and checked it anyway. But you want to come into, say, your AP manager. You want to check their roles, make sure that they have all the permissions they need. Maybe they need to approve vendors now. Maybe there's some release retained different instructions. They may need to add those. So you'll want to verify that the permissions are still correct, that all the permissions in the modules that a user requires is correct, and check for the new ones. You will also want to verify, and this can be done from the role assignment here. You can verify that the correct users have the correct roles assigned to them. If they don't, you can go into the user and change the roles. Remember that roles stack. So if you have an AP manager and then you give them an AR manager role, they'll have access to both. If you go into the AP manager role and give them permissions within cash management, they'll then be able to work in cash management as well. So you want to be careful how you stack your roles and the permissions you give them. Next, reporting periods. Reporting periods, this is a question that several people have. They don't understand necessarily how the reporting periods are put into the system. There are two methods to add reporting periods. You can either do it by the default function within the company module import data, or by importing the reporting periods using the template. What the default method will do is, if we come here, company reports, setup, reporting periods, see here, we're only up to 2022. If I go into company, setup, import data, scroll down to reporting periods and click default, create. I'll say done when it's done. I can go back to reporting periods. And you see it has now added in 2023, which is the current year, and 2024. This method only adds the next year. So in 2024, if you go in there and click default, it'll add 2025. Suppose, however, that you want to do more than just 1 year in advance. Then what you would do is you would come into the import system, download the template, and you would put in your reporting periods here. This method allows you to put in as many years as you want to. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 if you wanted to. You can put them in your header, put in your header, start date. I would use reporting periods that are in there as your template for doing that. And you can put them in and then import them. You can also, if you wanted to have different reporting periods, you could do it by weeks or, crazily enough, by days if you wanted to. The only thing to keep in mind, though, is if you're making a reporting period budgetable, it cannot overlap with another period that's also budgetable. Meaning you cannot have July 24 as a budgetable period and then have third quarter as a budgetable period. They're overlapping dates, they'll cause an error. Otherwise, you can go crazy with it. One other thing to remember is, and this is with the default method, using default, if you have any transaction. Say somebody fat fingered a transaction, and instead of putting in 2023, they put in 2203. Well, if you use the default method, the system's going to go and look at all your transactions. It sees the 2203. It's going to create all those periods all the way out to 2203. I have seen it happen. So be careful using default, or at least be aware of your data. All right, budgets. Now, the first thing you want to do for year-end close is to review your current budget. Make sure there's no errors in it, that everything still looks good. What you can do then is, if you followed recommendations, you should have saved all of your import templates if you imported your budgets from prior years. What you could do then is make a copy of a prior year's budget, change the headers. It's highly important that you change the date headers on it before you import it, and then just import it again after you make your changes to the numbers for the budgets. Or additionally, what you could do is start with a new budget. The problem with starting with a new budget is you have to start from the beginning. You can come in here and you have to put in all of your budgeting periods, budgetable periods. Whereas if you use an old one, it would already have these budgetable periods up here. You just have to change the year on it. Another thing you could do, which is a really neat feature, is to use the budgetable report. You can go to General Ledger and under Reports, Budget, or you can go to the Budgets repository and under Reports, and you'll find the budget here. What this will do is it'll give you can choose your date range, let's say January 24 to December 24, use the budget we want to use it for. We would want to come down here and select Use CSV Importable Format. Come over here, you can export it to Excel or CSV. Just remember you have to import it as a CSV. Come over here, open it up. I'll get my little warning. And voila. You have your, you have your template ready-made for you. You have your budget ID, you have all your column headers in, as well as reporting periods. This makes it tremendously easier in order to do your budget. Then you just put in your budget ID, your account numbers, any dimensional relationships you want with it, and your numbers in itself. This makes importing the budget a lot simpler. This is a really neat feature that they've added. I would make use of it. Also, if you're doing using single budget years, say you're doing a budget for, say normally you have year 2022, 2023, 2024. If you have that, then what you have to do is you have to come here and create the repository for it first. So it have to be year 2024 budget in order to create that budget. In order to create the container so that you could import that budget into it. It'll be right here. And this will be the budget ID that you put into the template. If you're using multi-year budgets, that is, such as a master operational budget, you can just import the budget with the new dates into that, and it'll populate it. And that's how you have a year-over-year budget that you can report on. Be aware that when you use single-year budgets, you have to go into your reports and change any reports that you have the budget assigned to and change the budget on the column. One of the advantages of using a year-over-year, multi-year budget is that you don't have to do that in all the reports. But that's not always feasible. Year-end close, 1099 process. and tax bandits. All right, this is probably going to be a disappointment to some people, but in Intacct, there's not really a lot you have to do to close the books. There's no button that you have to click. There's nothing special you need to do. In Intacct, what you would do is, after you do all your accruals, all your transactions for the year end, whoever has the authority will come in. If you want to close all your books at once, you can come to the general ledger, all books, click close. If you don't choose an entity and just choose the period in which to close up to, we have a lot of periods open here. We can come in here. We can close up to December 2021, let's say, close the books. This will close the books for all entities. Every entity that you have in your system, if you do not choose an entity here. If you only have one entity, don't choose it, just close it. It closes for all entities, and it closes the ledger and subledgers. Additionally, you can, of course, close the subledgers and open the subledgers individually, even if you've already closed them in the general ledger. You just go to open, leave page, and open them here. Again, you can do it by entity or as a whole, and you can open up the whole subledger. You can still go back and reclose it if you wanted to in the GL. Also, don't get confused when, say, you're at the end of the year and you'll see, let's say you say, well, I see December 22nd, fourth quarter 22nd, calendar year ended December 2022. All three of these do essentially the same thing if you're at the end of a quarter or at the end of a year. Closing the third month of a quarter closes the whole quarter. Closing the last month of a year, of a calendar year, closes it for the whole year. So you don't have to do each of them. Choose one of the three. Once you do that, your books are closed. No one can post directly to your GL anymore, or into the AP or receivables for that time frame. In the GL, if they needed to, they could do adjusting entries that allow you to post to close the periods, but not to open periods. Or you have to get permissions from the admin to open a period. (1099) processes. Here is where you need to plan ahead. For 1099, you're going to go to, you can go to the front page, the home page, little icon here. You can scroll down and you can see checks and supplies, or you can go to the Help Center. And come over here to help the checks and supplies. And it'll take you to the website that Intacct, for the vendor that Intacct uses to order their 1099 forms, whether it's for US or Canada. They'll also have 1096 forms as well. What you want to do then, so you want to order them as soon as possible, as soon as you know, if you're not going to e-file or do some other method. What you're going to want to do then is you're going to want to come into here. You want to go to your accounts payable. You want to come to your 1099s under reports, 1099, and you're going to run the 1099 report for whatever time frame. Normally, it's going to default to the year that's in question, which is 2023. You can add or take away various forms that you may or may not want to see. You do it just for 1099 transactions, which is normally what you're going to do. You can exclude credit card payments if you wanted to, and then you'll click View. What you want to do is come in here and you want to look and see if the numbers make sense. If they do not, then you're going to want to make changes to the transactions, either by using, again, Going to company, import data, scroll down here. You can use the vendor 1099 opening balances. If, say, there's a new vendor that you don't see in the list and you know they're supposed to be there, or you see that they don't have their opening balances, they came over from an older system, you can bring in their opening balances using this template. If you have transactions that are missing, you would use the transactional template to update their transactions. Then, once you're done with that, everything vets out, you have everything working correctly, you have 3 ways to print your forms. If you ordered forms to print out yourself, you can order the forms. Intacct will print to those forms just like you would to your checks when doing a check run, and then you can file them for yourself through the mail. You can do that by going to, and if you have 1096s, you can do that as well. Go to print form, 1099, choose your year. You can either do all vendors or select a range of vendors. You do to and from. Again, you can exclude credit card payments if you want to. You can include vendors, whether 1099 or not. You do have to choose the individual forms, so you have to do that one at a time. You can choose not to print IDs, things of that nature. And of course, you have your printer alignment. What you do here is, when you run print on this, it's going to pull a PDF version of what you're going to print. When you run that to print to your printer, it'll fill in, it'll be aligned properly with the boxes on the form that you ordered. I'll print it. It's going to look kind of weird when I do, because this is just a PDF form. It will match up to the forms on the box. So that'll print that you ordered. Kind of funky looking, but it does work. Another form method is to export the 1099 data. You do this when you have a third-party vendor that normally handles your 1099, and you export the file in Excel or CSV and send it to the vendor themselves. Again, you have to choose the form, and you can do export CSV, Excel, XML, XMD. What it does is it'll just download the file, and it'll give us this, and it's coming up for me, and it gives you this. I only have one vendor in here because I was working on it. It's for rent. Just my test vendor, and this is what you'd send to the third-party vendor who does your 1099s. Now, the newest thing is the e-file submissions. This uses Tax Bandit. What you would do here, and I'll go over the same thing when I talk about Tax Bandits, is you'll use this if you have them set up. You'll click Add, choose all the vendors you want to choose. Again, you'll have to choose the proper form, and you'll click e-file. It'll give you this, it'll let you look at it, make sure everything looks correct, and then you can file it, and it'll go over to Tax Bandit where they'll do the processing for it. Easy peasy. It just depends on what you want to do. Now, Tax Bandit does have a fee structure. It's not too, I don't think it's any more out of line with any other third-party 1099 processor, and it's based on volume. Next, this is Tax Bandit. I don't know if you can see this. You'll be able to see it in the download. It's basically the workflow from Sage Tax Bandit. You create and modify your 1099 vendors, create and modify their transactions, review the 1099 report. When it's ready to e-file, you'll have to create your Tax Bandit account, validate the data, submit and distribute the forms. So here's what's going to happen. Whoops, sorry. You'll configure Intacct use Tax Bandit. Don't let that freak you out. It's pretty simple. You have to come into applications. If you're worried about it, contact us. We'll do it for you. It's not too difficult. You'll go to Company, Admin, Subscriptions. You'll scroll way on down to Sage Cloud Services. Click Configure. Make sure it's set up properly so you can have your cloud services. This is also how you set it up in order to do your bank feeds. Then you'll go to Accounts Payable, Configuration, and you're going to scroll down. I forgot where it was now. Little box, you check right here. Enable 1099 e-filing powered by Tax Bandit. You'll check that, click Save. And now Intacct is configured to use Tax Bandit. You'll know it because you will see this little, when you refresh it, you'll see this 1099 e-file submissions here. If you do not, you're going to go to Company, whoever the admin is, go to Roles, and they'll need to check your role and make sure you have the ability to do that. There's a permission in here. I think it's called e-file. I don't really remember, to tell you the truth. But it's Form 1099 run and 1099 report. As long as they're set up, you'll see it. Accounts payable. Then what you'll do is you'll have to create an account with Tax Bandit. Once you have that, the easiest way I find to get to them is I go to Help and Support. I kind of do a cheat. I type in Tax Bandit. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but this is just the way I've done it. I'm too lazy to figure out another way. Come here, come to Tax Bandit, come down. Oh, and by the way, if you know me, you know I tell you, Sage Intacct Help and Support, always, always, always go to this before you go to anything else, because their help and support is fantastic. Go here, look for it. It's down here. It'll tell you configure your AP, create Tax Bandit account, and it tells you how to do it right here. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to file anything. But in here also has somewhere around in here has the pay structure as well. You create the account, takes you out to Tax Bandit, create your Tax Bandit account. And then what you're going to do is, oops, wrong file. Let me get back over here. Once you have your account created, you're going to create a batch file. So you have your Tax Bandit account created, everything's hunky-dory. You'll come in here, pull your 1099s, look at the data like we did previously. Everything looks good. Then you come over here, you'll add your batch like we did before. E-file, whoops, cancel. Wrong thing here. E-file, so you got to make sure you do it, and then you'll click e-file. You could download it to send manually, but that's kind of defeating the purpose. You'll click e-file. What's going to happen then, after you click e-file, is it's going to go to, you're going to get a link, it's going to change to a check your status link, basically, in here, and you can check the status of your submission. What's going to happen at that point? Whoops, I lost my chart. Is it's going to tell you if it was in progress, if it failed. Means there were errors found. You'll have to view the errors and fix it. If it's in progress, it means it's been sent to Tax Bandit. but they have not received it yet. It could take a few minutes depending on the size. And then submitted means it's been submitted to for filing, and you'll get a batch number, a batch ID over here, and there'll be a link that you can click on. Once the tax manager gets it and they submit it, they will send you an email telling you if it's been submitted to IRS or if it's been accepted to IRS. And if they've accepted or rejected it, and then you just wait for the completion of it. If there's a problem, the tax manager will have a link for you to contact their support. Really neat feature. If you want to e-file, it's not too horribly expensive. And in the help and support, if you will look up the Tax Bandit, somewhere in here they give you, or on the Tax Bandit site, they'll tell you how much it is. So you're not going in blind. All right, reporting. For end of year, there's not too much you have to worry about for reporting, except if you have budgets. The main thing is if you have budgets that are assigned to the reports, and they're single year budgets. Let me find one of the reports here. We have our departmental salaries, budget to actual. On the columns, you'll see here, operating budget. This is our budget column. If we have year 2024, say you do single years, you'll have to come into every report that has the year 2023 budget in, and you'll have to change it to year 2024. Or if you have a specialty budget, say CIP example, for 2023, and you do one for 2024, you'll have to go into all the reports that have that budget, and you will have to change them to the current budget. That's the advantage of a multi-year budget that you load each year, is you don't have to mess with the reports anymore. Once it's assigned, it's assigned. But that's not always feasible in some cases. You'll also want to, at this time, you want to do an audit of all your reports, because maybe some of the reports no longer matter to you, or maybe over the years you found we just don't use the reports and they're just clogging up our system here. That's making it messy. Then you want to come in, edit the report, and you can inactivate it. I would suggest not deleting it. Never delete a report, just inactivate. You inactivate it and save. It's removed from your list. Whoops, I should have said save and done. And it removes it from the list. This is also a good time to review permissions. Now, you should know that most people have permissions or assign permissions to their roles. However, in the reports, in the financial reports, you can also assign permissions so that even if someone can look at the financial reports, they can't look at that specific report. By default, it has access to everyone. In this particular case, you click remove, and it moves it to the exclude everyone. Now, the only person, if I save this, the only person who could see these reports would be the report owner. If they're still here, you can change this to public by deleting this out, and even the creator wouldn't be able to see it unless they have permission. Or if you're an admin, admins can always see the reports because they're admins. But then you have the option here to add a user who can see the report and no one else can. Or you could also do a group of users. Say you created a user group and you could choose them, and everyone listed here will be able to see the reports. That is a really neat way to allow people to view certain financial reports and not to view other financial reports, especially when it comes to the balance sheet or payroll type reports. This is the time when you're going to look at and determine if there's any reports that you need. I mean, you can do it throughout the year, but this is just a good time because you're already reviewing everything. You know, we'd really like to have this new report, this metric report that we've been missing. We've been still doing it in Excel. We need to build it out. This is time to try your hand at building it, or contact us and see if we can build it for you. We'll also want to look at memorized reports. All of these what we call operational or standard reports, the ones that are built into the system, can be memorized with certain combinations of settings. Some of here sounds like a particular range, GL account range and dimensional setup, and you just use it all the time. Well, set it that way, memorize it. If you make it public, anybody who has permissions can view that report. Otherwise, it's just private to you. You click OK. It'll take you to the Memorize Report section right here. That's where it automatically took us. And there's your report right here. Now, you can run it with those same settings all the time, so you don't have to reset it all the time. With any function, this will also be a time to look at any custom reports that you might have, which you would find in Platform Services, Custom Reports. Of course, you have to have permissions, and to do this, you won't have to be very well trained because it's a little bit more complicated than the financial reports, which are built off of account groups. All right, hold on for a second, everybody. So I had to get a swallow of water. My voice is going out on me. So that's really that's all there is to end of year reporting as far as in general. Also, Quisitive as your go-to partner, we have a complete cloud enablement, business applications, security AI. We're really developing our AI security offerings. We're a full service partner from consulting to implementation, licensing. We have multiple cloud solutions. We have multiple workforce apps and apps for HRM and various other PayIQ, bank card, various apps. We have all kinds of stuff that can help you. And that is pretty much all I had, Michelle. Any questions?
Thank you, Lynn. I do see that we've had some questions come in, and just a reminder, if you have any questions, please enter them into the question box on the GoToWebinar menu, and we will go ahead and get those answered now. I'm going to pull them up, Lynn. Let's see. The first one is, it says there may be a fee associated with using Sage Cloud Services. Will there be an additional fee as well as tax bandits? So I think I'm asking about fees related to Sage Cloud Services and tax bandits.
Right. So cloud services for U.S. customers does not have a fee. Anytime you go into company subscriptions and turn on any of the modules, especially of the core, you're going to get that notification. Some of these modules do come with a fee, these three in particular. Cloud Services does not. As of the last I knew, it did not. Now, if you're outside of the US, it does have a fee associated with it. But anytime you turn on a module in here, it's going to give you that notification. It's the same that you'll get whenever you go to create a user. Even if you know that you have a license that works, if you create a new user, it's going, even in this demo, it'll give me a notification that, hey, you're going to get charged a fee for this. Well, you're not, because you just saying you may get charged. So the cloud services, no, there's no charge for it if you're in the US.
And the tax bandits, there is a subscription fee, I believe, correct, Lynn? And that information is on the tax bandits website.
Right. So on the tax bandit website, I could be wrong. I know there's a fee for the number of transactions that you do. I didn't think there was a subscription fee, but there may be. And for some reason, I cannot get to tax bandit now.
Yes, I believe you're right, Lynn, that it is a
whoops, it was. That's what I wanted to say. I think it's just by volume.
Correct.
Yeah, it's 80 cents. There's not a monthly fee like you would with some things. And so here, 1099, the more you do, the more expensive it gets. And that's on Tax Bandit's website, taxbandits.com.
And that will be included in our presentation we send out so that you can get the pricing from Tax Bandits. And if there's any questions around any of the Sage Intacct modules or users, that pricing, feel free to reach out to us about that.
Right.
Oh, looks like another question here for the Tax Bandit. So we also have 2 companies in Sage. Would we have to register for 2 separate accounts with Tax Bandits?
Or so we say 2 companies. If you mean you have
I
two,
believe two entities. 2 entities.
No, you only. It's going to be Tax Bandit is good for the whole company, for the whole instance. If you have more than one entity, as long as it's within this one instance, you only need 1 account. If you have multiple instances, like say you have Jolly Roger 1 and then Jolly George, completely different. Let me hold on for a second. Oh, I got logged out. Hold on for a second, everybody. I got logged out of my own company. I was in the too long. All right, so say you are something like this where you have multiple companies here, then yes, you would need separate accounts. But if you have multiple companies here, no, you only need 1 account, and everything will run through that. I hope that makes sense. If not, contact us afterwards, and we will walk you through it, and we will look at it if it doesn't make sense to you. And we can look at it relatively quickly for you.
Thank you, Lynn. Let's see, another question here. Can we close the subledgers one day and then the GL on another day?
Yes. You can come in here anytime you want into a subledger. You can close it for a particular time frame, say up to July, and you can come maybe later and you want to come next day or next week and close the GL up to June 2022. They don't have to be the same dates. But if you close it in the GL, it's up to June 2022, it's going to close all the subledgers at that point, although you'll see that this subledger is still closed for July because it was further out. It's going to close the furthest out when it comes to subledgers. Conversely, you can also open subledgers back further than where the GL is, and you can also open the GL back as well. And if you notice, it gives you the option to open the individual subledgers. So if you don't choose these, it's just going to open up the GL back to a certain date. Or you can choose AP and maybe cash management and open it back to a certain date. So open and close works for the subledgers, work independently of general ledger in most cases. Now you do have a new option that's called lock closed periods. This locks it so that only people with specific permissions can unlock it. So that means no one can call, business users can be given permissions to open and close. Normally you only allow them to close and never open, but this way you can lock those periods hard lock so that only an admin can unlock them. That's a relatively new feature as well. Right.
Okay. Yes, I'm just checking here. I don't think I see any other questions that have come in. So it looks like you did a great job walking through everything, Lynn.
And I apologize to everyone for the technical problems we were having with GoToMeeting, but that's the nature of cloud computing. So next time, hope to see you again. Send us any email or questions if you have, or anything that we didn't get to or you want to discuss one-on-one, and we will talk to you about it.
Great. Thank you for the presentation today, Lynn, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As Lynn mentioned, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we are here to help you with all of your year-end questions. And we will go ahead and send out this recording and the presentation once that's available. So thank you everyone again for joining us, and please have a wonderful afternoon and a very wonderful holiday season. Thanks again.